So welcome to a new day and a new millennium. This gentleman here is a gentleman that I met probably 3 weeks ago. And since we met, he has asked brilliant questions, and I can tell in his heart that he cares. But about 2 or 3 days ago, he sent me an email, and he said the title was Skeptics. And he went on to actually go through very intelligent points and questions primarily around security and technology. And since this is a world that we've lived in for a very long time, I would argue longer than most had the opportunity in this lifetime, primarily just because of when we were brought into this world. And then technology was brought into this world. I thought, what a better way to actually just welcome him into the office. So he drove all the way here again, and then put the right individuals on the other side of his questions, namely Conrad. So the questions that were posed are important, which I don't know if you want to ask. I'm fine to couch, but the net is we've been running hard and fast for a very long time to build technology, and it's specifically open source technology. And there's certain things that you do with code and certain things you do with disclosures and certain things you do with plans. And I felt it was really important for us to just sit down and create a video that directly goes through the topics of security, encryption, and technology as it relates to his skeptical questions. Not even him, but others that were around him as he's sharing this message of what this ClearPhone is and why it's important. Not just a ClearPhone, but decentralization and decentralized storage and decentralized ID and the importance of it. So literally, this is a event where we just sit down and we talk about security and technology for the new millennium. So with that being said, we've got Kimball and we've got Conrad. Both of them will basically go through the question and the answer. Thank you for joining us. Kimball, it's up to you.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, so as he said, I found out about this because a friend of mine said, hey, I got a guy I go to church with who says he can get us off-grid phones. And I was like, literally picturing you in your freaking garage as some guy hacking phones and selling people de-Googled off-grid phones. And I'm like, sweet, I'd heard of something like that before. I want one. How do I get it? And she says, well, he lives in Midway, but his office, I think, is in Orem. I'll see if I can set up a meeting. I had no idea what I was coming in here to. I thought I was coming here for an off-grid phone, and that's what I wanted. And my skepticism, not even knowing the questions to ask, led me to start to dig in and dive in. And I watched all your videos and I watched other people's videos on YouTube, and I've tried to understand. And you had him come in one of the last times we were here and explain to me. And I'm sitting there like, I got it. And then I turned to explain it to somebody and I'm like, and I just didn't get it. And so the point of this was, look, I've got guys asking questions to me that are above my pay grade. I don't know how to answer them. And so I wanted to kind of bring them all here. And, I kind of wrapped them all into a couple of specifics that I think covered what I wanted. I was actually hoping to try and explain it and open up opportunity for the professor here to actually correct and teach me in my understanding, which then gives the people here the opportunity to learn at the same time. And Jeff and I have discussed what we heard the last time you were here to try and put the pieces together as best we can. And I feel like I want to say, all right, here's what it does for me and my family. And then you can say, yes, and 800 million times more cool stuff, right? That I don't even know exists because I honestly don't really grasp the magnitude of what you guys are building. I'm just starting to understand it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Cool. Because I had that list of questions and I went through it and I was like, this sounds like an interrogation and it'll be boring and it'll be annoying. And maybe we need to cover that stuff so that the skeptics can be shut up. But the specifics for me is there's two sides of it. One of them is, how the heck can this thing be off-grid, right? Which is my term, not yours. I know you guys aren't out there saying that. To me, that's what makes the most sense to people when you're worried about the security and you're worried about being spied on and you're worried about your data and everything else. I'd rather just take it all off the grid and out of their hands. And so how can that be possible if we're riding on their servers and in their internet? How is that even possible? That's the biggest skeptic question that's out there. And I think I've come up with an answer. And then on the other side, when you're not off grid and when your ID isn't, when it's not about decentralized ID, what about all the crap that does come in anyway. And I see those as two different things. One of them is, ClearOS and the decentralized IDs and the blockchain encryption, I believe, works for the anonymity. And then you've got ClearOS with ClearGM and ClearWeb that does kind of the management and filtering. Is that am I understanding the ecosystem properly, or am I totally off there?
No, that's a pretty good summary. The devil's in the details.
Right. No, I want to get into detail. I'm just trying to make sure I'm even headed in the right direction. And then I'll kind of... Okay, so here's how I understand it. And the thing that came to me, which should hit home to you, and you probably will know more about it than I do, but when I started talking to friends that I met in Australia when we lived down there, some really good buddies, they're concerned about their privacy down there as much or more as we are here. They're seeing some crazy stuff happening down there. And it was one of those God moments, right? Where the day I was here, a kid started working with him at a new job that he had just worked at. And I sent a message to him saying, hey, have you heard about this phone? And he turned and tells this kid, and this is this skinny little black kid, this skinny little Christian African kid who has fled from Africa for Christian persecution for his life to Australia. And he saw this and said, are you telling me that we could get this in the hands of our people, my family back in Africa, and they could maybe use this to hide from the persecution of the Christians that are being hunted and killed because of their phones? Like, it went right there. And I was like, holy crap. Like, is that really what this could possibly be? That answers the, can this actually be off grid? And then from there, to me, the way I want to explain it to people is, yes, based on the decentralized IDs and the way the Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, but the blockchain stuff works, and you explained that to me in the card that comes in your 12 things and all that, I get that. All the way to, then you get to decide how much of the privacy you want to maintain. Yes, the phone can do everything a Google phone can do. And if you want to give Google access and you want to give Facebook access and you want to give everybody else access, you're just basically saying, I'm willing to give up all of this data and this privacy in order to keep living the life that I want to live. But if I'm that Christian in Africa trying to hide, yes, I can use a ClearPHONE with the DIDs not tied to my name. I didn't give my social or any other government information. I just opened the box, took out my stuff, turned on used a fake Google account to activate it or whatever, get ClearSignal, and only talk to someone else on ClearSignal, and I'm riding on any network in the world completely off the grid. ClearSignal to ClearSignal. Decentralized IDs, that is if you're trying to hide and have something to hide or whatever, for whatever your reason is, that's the way that works. And then from there, you're opening up, getting outside of the ClearOS ecosystem. You can go into the whole beast of Google if you want and pull as much of that in as you want. And then that's where ClearGM takes over. And as you bring in other parts of the beast, that tries to help control it and keep it from destroying your life.
Yeah, so there are a few details. That's mostly correct at a high level. One of the details that people tend to forget about is that phone numbers, right? If that phone number gets correlated with your name anywhere.
Right, that's what I mean. Like that's where I was going. ClearSignal to ClearSignal. Like you're using burner SIM like. You want to stay off the grid. You forget phone number. Phone number doesn't exist. It's ClearSignal to ClearSignal.
Yeah, and what a lot of people actually can't stomach that. Right. They think they want privacy, but then when all of a sudden they.
But how do I have privacy in Facebook? You don't.
Exactly. Right. But the point is that whatever phone number is connecting to the cell tower, they have that location 24/7.
Right.
Right. And so. If somehow that gets correlated to you, then your location is known 24/7 as well. And so the way that we get around this, and for those of you that are using Signal out there already, ClearSignal is a fork and extension of the original Signal intended to allow people to message with decentralized IDs instead of phone numbers. And so one of the things, if you're like a total conspiracy nut, is Signal currently requires you to put your phone number in.
Right.
That's the very first thing you do, right?
So how is that anonymous at all?
Well, the contents of the messages remain anonymous, right? But you get the point with that. And so the basic idea at least from a messaging standpoint, is that a DID, which is a decentralized ID, pairwise is unique in the entire world. And so if I have you in my contacts, I will have a DID for you that is unique in the entire universe.
Right.
And me and your contacts will be unique in the whole universe too, right? And so just to back up, one of the things, and this was in the email that you forwarded, people who know what's going on always want to know about key management, right? This is like the most important things, and we haven't up until now really published any rigorous white papers on key management because we've been building, right? But I think that if you were to compare us to most places, we've done a phenomenal job implementing state-of-the-art key management compared to other places. And the reason why is a lot of people, they want to get an MVP, proof of concept, out of the door as quickly as possible, thinking that they can strap key management on later. And if you don't do it right from
Right, that's how the internet started, right? A bunch of geeks thought about security after the fact instead of doing it beforehand.
And the internet security is broken right now. And a little on later on, we might be able to tell you how that's getting fixed. But with key management, the way that key management works is, so you have a DID, right, which has a key. But every time you sign something with that key, every time you encrypt something with that key, you're throwing encrypted information out there, right? And if I can get enough of that encrypted information in a strong enough computer, I might be able to crack your key. And so what happens is, without changing your DID, you want to rotate your keys. You want to say, well, yeah, this is still my ID, but instead of using this pass certificate, I want to use this new one now, this new key. And to do that, basically you're saying, instead of this public key, use this next one. And rotation operations are very, very important because that's how you maintain the integrity of the key, right? And so the only really safe way to do rotation is through a scheme called pre-rotation. Okay. And so what that means is, when I create my DID for the very first time and I get my public key, I publish the DID plus the public key, but then I do something else. In that initial publication, I say, oh, and by the way, when I rotate keys next, this is going to be my next public key. And so you have published in advance what the next public key is going to be. The only way for a person to have access to that public key and that public key is if they had access to your original master key, right? And so what we do is we take master keys and we use derived keys for everything, right? And these derived keys, you can derive the key deterministically, but once you have the key, you can't go back, right? And so if you think about this in terms of a hash, right? A hash is 32 bytes, depending on which one you're using, but it's 32 bytes that uniquely represent the contents of any information you could ever produce.
Okay.
And so if you think about this just logically, if I have like a 1 terabyte archive of photos and I turn that into a 32 byte hash, I can't go back because I threw away a terabyte of information, right? And so it's impossible to go back from the hash. And so imagine taking your unique secret key from your master private key, and you append on the hash for whatever you want, or maybe just a context, like maybe the host name for a website or the package name for an app on your phone. You take that and you hash it, and those 32 bytes become a seed for a new key, right? And so the only way to get at that hash is if you had the original secret key,
which is the one that
which is the 12 words that you get in the very
beginning.
Safe in your
phone, you never get rid of it.
That's right.
Never be
and
cracked.
So those 12 words, as long as you keep those safe, you can have derived keys. And if, back to the example, if my first public key got compromised, but they didn't have my master key, I could just rotate away from that to the next one and I'm safe, right? If you don't do pre-rotation, what happens is you say, well, this is my public key. And then when that key gets compromised...
You got to figure out how to update.
Well, this is the problem. When that key got compromised, guess what? The attacker... If an attacker is hacking crypto, they know what they're doing, right? And so if an attacker gets that key, the very first thing I would do when I had your key is I would rotate it to a new key that I control, and you just lost everything. Surprise, right? And that's the problem with strapping key management on after the fact. And so with Clear, all of the apps are able to use derived keys. And we actually, inside the SDKs that app developers can use, we have support for key rotation, and automatically key rotation takes place. And so the app developer...
So the developer doesn't need to know how to build that.
The developer doesn't need to know how to build that. All they have to say is, I think that for the data that
For any developers out there, that my understanding, that should be huge, right? You're like giving them a leg up on
Well,
piece.
so for the developers out there who happen to watch this, we're not just giving you decentralized ID, we're also giving you decentralized storage and decentralized crypto payments. And now take a load of this. We're not taking 30% of your money like Google and Apple do, right? When you publish an app. Any in-app payments that you collect from your users settle within 3 to 5 seconds. That's final settlement in a decentralized sense in 3 to 5 seconds. And for those, from a US perspective, I think other countries are similar. Until you off-ramp your crypto into fiat, you have no tax liability.
So
Right.
I understand it too.
Yeah, and so you can collect your crypto as long as you want, and if your expenses are $100 a month or whatever, and you off-ramp $100, that's taxable. But whatever the profits you made, you get to decide when those become taxable, right, based on how you off-ramp it.
Sure.
And so, compare that to Google or Apple, who bundle payments, and every 2 weeks they send you an ACH payment, which you have
And
to
you have
KYC.
to pay taxes on and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so they're reporting to the IRS for you. You KYC'd, you gave them bank account information, social security, your tax ID, the whole 9 yards. Right, and so just for app developers,
So it's not just a freaking awesome phone, but for all of these skeptics, if they just get on board and realize what we're building the perfect place for them to build their perfect apps that they don't have to share with Google or Apple or anybody else.
and no censorship, right? So,
Yeah.
So the Clear App Store, if you're a developer, when you upload your app to the App Store, it gets uploaded into decentralized storage. And so if the government wanted to try and censor your app for whatever reason, they would literally have to find thousands of servers in jurisdictions across the entire world.
It can't be stopped.
It can't be stopped.
This
Yep.
solved Parler.
Yeah, so Parler's problem would have been solved.
This solves Parler on multiple levels, not just on the storage level, which is where Amazon just shut them off.
Right.
But it also solves it at the DNS level and at the name resolution level and at the specific URL. So let's say you don't want to use, if it wasn't Amazon, let's say it was actually Google Domains or GoDaddy or Network
I've
Solutions.
had GoDaddy shut my domain down because they said I was spamming and
to
it
the
was
point.
complete horse crap.
And
They made
to-
up their own rule for spam
that's
and they shut down. It was Jeff and I's business. They shut down like, I don't even know how much we were making. We were like nothing, literally at their mercy, begging for them to turn us back on.
And so what you don't realize today, because we haven't brought this up, but you can register any web domain with what's called ClearSDN, Service Delivery Network. You can register any web
Is that
domain.
the new DNS for the new internet?
The new DNS for the new internet is actually from a gentleman named Sam Smith, which is called Carry, which is absolutely brilliant. It uses the same, what Conrad went through with basically having a DID between us as an individual within contacts. Imagine that happening with a website the same way.
Yeah.
So I'll let Conrad expound upon it, but it's not just Parler getting shut down from Google's Play Store and Apple's Play Store and Amazon's storage. But there's so much more that runs the internet. There's so much more behind the infrastructure of how applications are created and developed. And there's so much more behind, I would even go and say, should we be skeptical about all internet communications, not just what they call SSL, secure socket layer? Because the whole key management that Conrad's talking about, how we're talking about it with Clear, in the world of SSL, in our opinion, is all fully corrupt. The whole system, all data online is fully corrupt. So the whole internet literally needs to be rebuilt from the ground up using these same methodologies that we're talking about with decentralized ID and decentralized storage will actually then go to the decentralized internet.
Right. That's kind of where my head went. Like, you're going to have servers in everybody's houses and everybody can put their own sites on it if they want and list their own stuff in their own social network marketplace if they want. Like, literally, we give everybody the internet back and we get to do that to big tech while we're doing it.
That was an illustration. I just got it. Conrad, do you have anything else to say?
So I wanted to just touch the DNS topic. So DNS, people probably know, takes you from a name like google.com to an IP address, right? But you're sending a request to a particular server to do that resolution for you, right? And SSL, right, it's a certificate chain which says that this DNS name issued a certificate to this DNS name, which issues a certificate to this DNS name. To verify that that SSL cert is valid, your browser is doing DNS lookups on every step of that chain and asking the servers at those IP addresses, is this a certificate that you actually issued, right, to see if it's valid.
Sure.
So if the server that your DNS requests are going to is compromised by an attacker, they could create their own Facebook, right? They could resolve your request for Facebook.com to one of their servers, which then says, yes, this fake SSL certificate is valid. And so you as a user are sitting at home, you're looking at a website which, their designers from wherever made them look exactly like the real deal. You're looking at that and you click on the top and your browser says, yes, this is SSL secured, and it's BS, right? And the trouble is, so you look at that and that's a security flaw in the internet that it's just there. Right, and it hasn't been patched yet.
Everybody knows it's there, but there was nobody smart enough to come along and fix it yet.
Well, and that wasn't me. That's Sam Smith who figured that out, right? But the other thing that happens, which is also a little creepy, is that the big routers that move all the traffic around, if you have $250,000, you could buy one, and the protocol that the routers use to communicate with each other is like decades old and totally insecure. Right, and so if you controlled enough of these huge routers, you could actually
just siphon off everybody's.
Well, you could screw with IP addresses, right? You could say, well, this IP address, no, don't send that across the ocean. Send that to my government server over there, right? And so, that's like total conspiracy mode. But you need to understand that SSL, as we know it, you should assume that people can still read what's going on. I mean, yeah, use it rather than don't use it, because normal non-governmental attackers, it's going to be harder for them to crack it. But when you're talking about, is there someone in the world that can see your SSL communication? The answer is probably yes.